All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of D&D Deep Dive, the show where we dive deep into classes, subclasses, and other features of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons to help you get the most out of your choices. So, today we are going to be continuing along the path of the Machinist. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying the videos that I make, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon, turn notifications on. All of those things are super, super, super important to other people being able to see this. The other thing, if you are unaware of where I'm getting this stuff, there's actually a link in the description. It is the first thing you see in the description where it says get it here. You can actually download the entire thing from the Reddit there. It's on the first pinned post where it has the most current version and all the earlier versions as well. The version I'm actually using is actually back from February of 2021. They updated it recently, and due to the fact that I'm almost done with it, I wasn't going to switch over to the new version because the changes they made were relatively minor. They didn't make any massive changes other than adding 2 new classes, which I will deal with later. Let's finish this first. So, that being said, let's talk about the Machinist. Hold on for just a second. I need water. All right, much better. So, the Machinist. Like I said in my last video, the Machinist is a pretty cool class. I don't really think it does anything that breaks the mold. As I mentioned before, in 5th edition D&D, there is an unofficial firearms-based class that was designed by Matt Mercer. It is on D&D Beyond, so you can make it, and it's a subclass of the fighter, and so everything about the gunslinger is what it's called, revolves around the defining features of the fighter, which are they get a lot more attacks than everyone else, and most gunslinger type classes will generally kind of build themselves around the idea of doing these trick shots that allow you to do things like disarming or slowing people, things like that. It's just a really common thing. Sorry. It's just a really common thing, and the Machinist kind of fits into a similar thing. The class itself, after some slight changes to wording and some switching some things around, the 2 kind of defining features of the class are graze shots, which are effectively ways that you can modify your attacks to add some sort of effect to them, which can be pretty interesting and fun. And then technology things, little gizmos and gadgets that they could create. So those are the 2 kind of big things. It is a multi-attribute dependent class because your shots are going to be based on your dexterity, but all your tech stuff is going to be based on your intelligence. So having both of those a pretty high level, very comparable to like a monk, where they need both wisdom and dexterity to be really successful. So how do these subclasses deal with this? Well, each subclass is going to have a slightly different focus. The first subclass that we're focusing on today is called the Marksman. And if you had to guess, I think you would probably guess that this has something to do with shooting stuff. Whereas the Tinkerer, if you had to guess, it'd probably be about building stuff. And the Grenadier, probably about blowing stuff up. So that's what the Marksman is. And the thing with all 3 subclasses, for lack of a better term, they are boring. None of the subclasses really change how you play the class almost at all. And the Marksman is kind of the perfect example of this, because a Marksman will play almost identically to a Tinkerer. And the Grenadier is a little bit different, but all of them are going to play so incredibly close to the same that the subclass really just doesn't feel like it does anything. So in order to change that, and one of the big issues with the Marksman itself is the Marksman feels like a fighter subclass because it doesn't actually interact with any of the defining features of the Machinist. It actually just makes it a little bit easier for you to hit. Let's dive into it, and I'll kind of describe what I'm talking about as we go. So, at 3rd level, you get Gauss Barrel. While equipped and functioning, at 3rd level, you've completed your work on a specialized barrel to attach to your firearm. While equipped and functional, you gain a +2 to your attack and damage rolls. The Gauss Barrel can assist a number of shots equal to your intelligence modifier before requiring a cleaning completed at the end of a short or long rest. This bonus increases by 1 at 6th, 11th, and 17th level. So, the Gauss Barrel itself is just a bonus to your attack and damage rolls. That's it. Now, your graze shots are save effects. So, Gauss Barrel is not going to do anything for your graze attacks. Your Sounding Sentry and all your little tech gadgets don't have anything to do with attack or damage rolls either. They're completely separate. So the Gauss Barrel doesn't interact with any of the defining features of the class whatsoever. The only thing it does is it makes it slightly easier for you to hit. But it does that a limited number of times. Because you get this at 3rd level, more likely than not, you're going to have a 16 in your dexterity modifier, which is what you use, and you will either have a 14 or a 16 in your intelligence modifier. So at this point, you either have 2 or 3 shots that you can use between long rests that will have this additional attack rolling damage to them. But there's nothing in the ability that tells you how they work. It says that you can only add this 2 or 3 times at the 3rd level, depending on your intelligence modifier, but it doesn't tell you how you do that. If it's literally whenever you have the Gauss Barrel equipped, which would be something you probably wouldn't be able to do in the middle of combat, because it would give something to tell you could do that, that means your first 3 shots of the day will be slightly better, which is 1 encounter. 1 kind of short encounter, and once you get up to level 5 where you get extra to attack, that is a turn and a half. So yeah, this is such an incredibly limited thing. It doesn't tell you how you can use it or not. So the natural inference would be that your first few shots of the day get something extra, and then it's completely useless for the rest of the day. Which isn't fun. It doesn't change how you play the class at all. You're going to hit slightly more. A +2 at 3rd level is a pretty significant amount. And then when you get up to 17th level, it's turned into a +5. That is a significant amount. So yes, you are going to be hitting more often. But that's it. And you do a little bit more damage. Again, a +5 to damage is not nearly as influential as a +5 to hit. It just isn't. Hit points go up a lot faster than armor class does. So yeah, the Gauss Barrel is just, it's boring. It doesn't change how you play the class. It doesn't make you really feel that much more an accomplished marksman at all. It's just, wow, I can hit a little bit more often and do a little bit more damage, and that's it. It's not fun. You're not going to make different choices with how you attack being a marksman than you would being a tinkerer or a grenadier. You're just, there's nothing about this that feels special. And you don't want that with a subclass. The subclass should make you start playing differently. To give you examples, if we go to the Battlemaster Fighter, you get your maneuvers right then. If you go to the Eldritch Knight, you get spell casting. If we go to the Ranger, your Hunter, you will immediately get a choice between two different abilities that will drastically change how you attack. One of them gives you extra damage when you hit a target that's not at full health. The other one gives you, I think, extra damage on hitting multiple targets in a turn. Yeah, it instantly changes how you play your class. And then if you go with the Beastmaster Ranger, you have a pet. Like, your third level ability should give you a reason to play the class. And at third level for the Marksman, nothing changes. What you were doing at second level is the exact same thing you'll be doing at third level, only you'll hit slightly more. And we don't want that. You know, the third level ability of a subclass is going to define the subclass. And it really should interact with a defining feature of the class somehow. And this doesn't. There's nothing you can do to make the Gauss Barrel do anything for your grazes. There's nothing you can do for the Gauss Barrel to do anything with your tech items, your inventions. So yeah, my suggestion, and this is really the only big change I have for this subclass, because once we make this modification, everything else just kind of fits in, and it does turn into something interesting. Is we're going to change the entirety of the text to this. I have to put there. All right, so the new text would read, at third level, you've completed your work on a specialized barrel to attach to your firearm. When you make a graze attack, you can choose to add a Gauss shot to that attack. Choose a creature that is within a 15-foot cone originating from the primary target of your graze attack, pointing away from you. That target must also make the saving throw associated with the graze attack, suffering the effect of the graze attack on a failure, but taking no damage. You can use Gauss Shot twice before the Gauss Barrel requires a cleaning, which can be completed at the end of a short or long rest. So we're changing this around. We're making Gauss Barrel actually work with your graze shots. For those of you wondering, Gauss Shot is an ability in Final Fantasy XIV, and literally what it is your off global cooldown extra damage. That's all it's used for. When you get rid of your heat, one of the options you have will actually recharge your Gauss Shot, and the Ricochet Shot is the other one. But all Gauss Shot is extra damage. It's off cooldown damage. So in Final Fantasy XIV, that works perfectly fine. That's how the game is built, is using your on global cooldown and then shifting in off global cooldown stuff in between button pushes. In a thing like 5th edition D&D, it doesn't work. So we need to find another way. And I just thought, since Gauss Shot is normally just an extra bullet you get to fire, what if we changed it into you could affect an extra target? Now it's going to be something that gives you a graze, because the target, and I specifically chose a 15-foot cone, because one of the other aspects of the Machinist is that peloton that we talked about that you get at 7th level, where your speed increases by 5 feet. So you are meant to be a little bit faster than the other classes. So by having the secondary attack have to effectively be directional, it means the marksman is going to need to be moving around the battlefield, and that means the marksman is going to play very, very differently right at third level. You're instantly going to be going, okay, I need to see if I can line up Gauss shots. The reason I limited the number of Gauss shots is gray shots are already limited by your intelligence modifier. If we made the Gauss shots the exact same number, then there would never be a reason to not use your Gauss shot, which again changes it from, hey, this is a new choice you could make, to, hey, we've just replaced grays with Gauss shot. And I don't like that. It also would unbalance the grays a little bit, just because some of the grays effects can be really, really powerful. And so by limiting it a little bit, you're going to be able to do this. It also means these Gauss shots are now associated with an action type. Your gray shots require you to use your bonus action, or in reactive grays, requires you to use your reaction. But it's actually linked to something, whereas the original text didn't really tell you where it came from. It just said, oh, this happens a limited number of times, but we're not going to tell you how it happens, or if you can choose whether or not it happens. It just happens. So generally, for an ability in 5th edition to be really useful, it needs to be associated with something that gives the player choice. Whether, like for my Dragon Knight class, I have it always written, when you take the attack action. Okay, so this is limited to the attack action. It means bonus action attacks don't count. It means opportunity attacks can't use this. It has to be part of the attack action. And I specifically say, when you take the attack action, you can replace one of your attacks with this dragon attack. And that's how it works. And it's actually tied to something. So people know specifically, okay, when I take the attack action, I have a choice. Do I want to make a regular attack? Do I want to make a dragon attack? And now we have, with the Gauss Barrel, okay, now when I'm going to be attacking, I can choose to do a graze, and I now have another choice that I can make. Do I want to do just a graze, or do I want to do a Gauss shot graze where I can hit twice the number of people? Yeah, I did limit the damage aspect, just because, again, effectively giving players additional damage can be a lot more unbalancing than it sounds. But giving them the ability to affect multiple targets with a status effect is slightly easier to control. Obviously, when this is play tested, if it feels like it's just not quite powerful and enough, an easy way to add a little bit more usefulness to the Gauss shot, it would be just simply to make both targets take the same amount of damage. So you'd effectively have one attack roll that hits 2 targets. Like I said, I'm not inclined to do that right now, but once people start playing it, that may be that is a balancing option. Let's put it that way. So that's 3rd level. Going to 6th level, you have Hawkeye Goggles. At 6th level, you have completed special goggles to assist in shooting and scouting over long distances. While wearing the goggles, you gain proficiency in the perceptions in a typo. While wearing the goggles, you gain proficiency in perception skill checks involving sight, and may use intelligence for those checks. You can see up to 4 miles in clear conditions and increase the normal range of your weapons by 30 feet. With the old version of Gauss Barrel, Hawkeye Goggles is kind of cool, but again, it doesn't change how you play the class almost at all, other than it increases the range of your weapons, which most firearms have crazy long ranges. So an additional 30 feet is not going to be a massive change for most players. Now that the Gauss Barrel actually has something they can do, the Hawkeye Goggles can actually sit a little bit more along the idea of just more of a role-playing tool that has some battle aspects to it. But the idea that you can now, any perception skill checks you make that involve sight can now use intelligence instead of wisdom, which is kind of cool. The wording that they have here, where it says specifically perception skill checks involving sight, does mean that your passive perception is still going to be wisdom based, because it didn't say you can use intelligence with the perception skill just all the time. It's just specifically when you make a perception skill check, which involves rolling, and passive skills do not involve rolling. So if that was something that was not intended, that it was intended to just replace, be able to replace intelligence for your wisdom score when you do perception checks, then it needs to be reworded to fit that way. As Hawkeye Goggles is right now, I think it's cool. I think it's an interesting thing. I actually more like the visuals of it than anything else. When you think about the idea of, oh, shink shink, I have these cool goggles now. I can see really far. I think it sounds really cool, and it looks cool. So, yeah. Going to 11th level, you get Lock On. You double the number of Gauss Barrel shots available to you, and while wearing your Hawkeye Goggles, when you make an attack roll with your Gauss Barrel effect, your weapon can shoot at maximum range without disadvantage. Again, since we changed the Gauss Barrel, we do need to make a slight modification. Looking at just the flat class, again, Lock On doesn't change how you play the class at all. And it just gives you double the number, so you go from a maximum of 5, which is effectively 2.5 turns at level 11. So 2.5 turns. Now you get 5 turns per short rest, where you hit a little bit better. It's just boring. It doesn't, and it's passive. Everything about the Marksman is passive. You don't get to make any choices with any of this. Your first few shots automatically just hit a little bit better. Lock On, you automatically get this whenever it's on. There's no choices built into this, and it gets really boring. With the revised version of the Gauss Barrel, we also have to make some slight changes to Lock On. So basically, we're going to keep the first part. You double the number of Gauss Barrel shots available for you. So it used to be 2, now it's 4, which means really only 1 grace shot per day is going to not have the option of a Gauss shot with it. So we're going to keep that, but we're going to change when you make an attack roll with your Gauss Barrel effect to when you add a Gauss shot to one of your graze attacks. So again, now this is a choice. Whenever you add a Gauss shot, you can shoot at maximum range without disadvantage, which also means your Gauss shots have an additional thing that could be useful. If you have someone that you just can't get within the right range for, now you can add your Gauss shot to effectively give you maximum range without any worry of disadvantage. So your Gauss shots have now become more accurate, which is always really useful. So yeah, and again, it's a choice. Again, previously Lock On was passive. Anytime this ability that you can't turn off, it just runs out of uses, happened, you also got other things. Now Lock On is an active choice. If you choose to use a Gauss shot, then you get this. So finally, at 17th level, you get Sniper. Sniper is another passive ability. The normal version of it is when you land a critical hit, the damage is tripled. You score a critical hit on a die result of 19 or 20. Again, the entirety of the Marksman abilities are passive. You don't make any choices here. They just happen, which doesn't feel good. You don't get any choices when you're a Marksman. You just play the base class, and some extra stuff sometimes happens. So we're going to change Sniper. And not a massive amount, but enough so that it feels good. So we're going to change the text of Sniper to: Beginning at 17th level, you can fire your graze attacks with pinpoint accuracy. When you add a Gauss shot to one of your graze attacks, the primary target has disadvantage on their saving throw against the effect. The secondary target rolls as normal. In addition, the graze attack can score a critical hit on a die result of 19 or 20. So we're keeping the expanded criticals, but we're limiting it to the graze attacks, which again is a defining feature of the class. So we want that. That's a good thing. However, we're also adding, if you put in a Gauss shot, now they have disadvantage on their saving throw, which means Gauss shots are also going to make it that much easier for your primary target to actually fail their save, and the secondary target is going to be as normal, but it's still going. You're still getting extra stuff. That's in addition to the fact that your maximum range is increased because of lock on. And all these other things. This turns the Marksman from a... Well, let's go final thoughts. The Marksman itself, as it's written, is entirely passive. Nothing about the class gives you any sort of choice in or out of combat. Everything just happens. Which effectively means when you're playing the Marksman, you are effectively just playing the base class without a subclass, which isn't fun. So by making the modifications to Gauss Barrel, where it is now actually a choice, you actually get to change how you play. Because Gauss Barrel targets something behind your target, you need to be aware of where your positioning is and move your Marksman around to be able to hit the targets that you want to hit. As you get to lock on, you start having even more benefits where your Gauss shots will let you shoot farther, or Sniper, where your Gauss shots will invoke disadvantage on saving throws and can get better crits and things like that. Like, the whole thing just turns into something really interesting and fun. So yeah. Otherwise, that is going to be all for me today. As always, just a reminder, as always, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Wow, brain just left me. In the comments down below, tell me what you think. Do you like the idea of the Gauss shot, the Gauss Barrel turning into something that actually adds choice? Or do you actually prefer the very kind of passive version of it, where it's just like, I like I like the base class, and I think it's really fun, and I just want to be able to do all the cool stuff I can do with the base class. So let me know in the comments down below if that's something that's interesting to you. The other thing, again, one of the other ideas I had with the base class was turning it into an entirely reaction-based class. So if you have any interesting ideas on how any of these features could be turned into a reaction-based class, put those in the comments down below too. Again, I personally am not going to redesign this class to be reaction-based. I do not have the spoons for that right now. But if someone comes across this and goes, hey, I could do that, I think that's really cool, or if Soren decides that that's the way he wants to go with this after the next update, then yeah, just having all this stuff here or on the Reddit will give Soren another, or whomever decides to try to redesign the class, will just give them a bunch of ideas that they may or may not use. So yeah, put all that stuff in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that is all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.